We have with us today Liza Greve. We were going to have Don Spencer with us, but he had a little medical situation and he couldn't make it this morning. Hope to see him tonight. But Liza is with a group called MOHA, Make Oklahoma Healthy Again. And Liza, this organization has been through 2 or 3 different names, if I'm not mistaken. And so when did you first start? And I think originally you were about fully informed consent on vaccinations. But anyway, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your organization. And I want just before she starts here, just say this, that there are 2 organizations, conservative organizations in this state that carry a big stick politically. One is OK2A and the other one is MOHA. I think last year in all the candidates that you all supported, only 1 or 2 lost. And so this young lady here represents one of the most powerful organizations in the state. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about it.
Well, we started about 11 years ago under Oklahomans for Vaccine Choice. And we started on Facebook, just a bunch of moms and dads that got together because there was a senator at the time by the name of Senator Dr. Irving Yin, who, yes, and he's running for, I think, U.S. Senate this year under the Democratic ticket. So he finally found his party, I guess.
Yes.
But yes, he proposed to the Senate that we were going to get rid of the vaccine exemptions that Oklahoma had had in law for, at that time, probably like 45 years. And basically what that means, if you want to send your child to public school and you didn't want to take either, one particular vaccine, you would ask for an exemption. Well, Senator Yin wanted to revoke that. He wanted only doctors to be able to give parents their exemptions. And, a lot of us had vaccine injured children or we had issues with the vaccines. And so we formed on Facebook, started to try to talk to him. He, thought he was right. He was a medical doctor. We were all stupid, started a PAC and sent a bill to the governor's desk that very year. Our first bill that we introduced went to Governor Fallon's desk.
Yeah.
It just slid through there. We had no opposition until it got to her desk and she vetoed it. But that was kind of our start. And then 4 years later, we unseated him. And I got an opponent for him the very day of filing. And
the last day of filing?
Yeah, the last day of filing, I meant, yes. And it was down to the wire. But, God's hand was on that, obviously. And he did. He lost his primary. And then that put us again on the map. And that's when we changed our name. We said, you know what, this vaccine issue hopefully is done. The legislature realizes that it's parents' rights. And we changed to Oklahomans for Health and Parental Rights. And then fast forward, another 4 years, and this Bobby Kennedy, Trump, we started coming in with the food issues and so many other things that are affecting not only our children's health, but our health. We have the sickest generation of children. This generation may not outlive their parents. So it's more than vaccines. It's so many other issues. And so the MOHA came. So we're an evolving group. So you kind of have to find us. But hopefully this name stays and we're still the same core group. But we've obviously, after COVID, our membership tripled. And that was kind of when we became just very mainstream.
So I want to ask you, is not your husband a doctor?
He is not a medical doctor.
Okay.
He's a PhD. But
okay.
Yeah.
I'd heard he was a doctor, but I didn't know if it's medical or not. So I was just thinking, if he were a medical doctor, for Dr. Yin to call all of you a bunch of stupid, whatever, would be a little bit of an exaggeration there.
Yes.
But, and I want to say one thing about Yin. He immigrated here from China. And I used to listen to him a lot on radio. And he said the family was fleeing communist China. Unfortunately, when I would hear him talk about his ideology and things like that, he failed to leave a lot of that behind in China. And now that he's a Democrat, I guess you're absolutely right. He has realigned with what, is really his deal there. So,
That's worth emphasizing, Charlie, because in communist mindset, see, there is an appeal to it because you trust the expert is what it amounts to. He would bring out the idea that for the care of your child, it's not really the parent's primary responsibility. They shouldn't be the final authority, so to speak. Instead, it should be the pediatrician because they actually know what's best for your child, even more so than the parent. And that mindset, it concentrates power in the hands of the few, and the idea of the communist model. And that runs rampant throughout all the, what do you want to call them, sectors of society. And that's what he did bring, and he brought out that point. And it's just flat out wrong.
Yeah, I understand. So, supposedly here today with us was Don Spencer, and he is the executive director, president, whatever, of OK2A. Now, Aya, that is an organization that you're the president of Logan County's chapter, which happens to be the largest chapter in the state of Oklahoma. Do you want to tell us a little bit about OK2A, or do you want me to start off with the history of it with Tim Gillespie?
Sure, you can tell about the history, and
Okay.
I can share about our group when you're finished.
Okay, good. So this is an organization that was started probably, I'm going to say, close to 20 years ago. And Tim Gillespie was a pastor, and I would say he labored for about 3 years trying to develop this organization. The NRA and its local affiliate, the ORA, the Oklahoma Rifle Association, were just not doing their deal when it came to Second Amendment issues. And so Tim spent a lot of time and effort getting that developed. And originally it was somewhat affiliated with Gun Owners of America. Now, Gun Owners of America is the no compromise Second Amendment organization, unlike the NRA, which is compromised many times in the past. And so there was a link between those two. And so one day I had Tim Gillespie come and speak at OPAC, and Don was a photographer for Kimray at that time, and he came to that meeting, and he really wasn't coming to hear Tim, but his interest was really piqued, and so that's when he started getting involved. And as time went on, Don took over that organization, and Don has done an excellent job working the legislature and such as that. And we'll go over some picks here in a minute, your picks, and we're going to explain how you do your surveys and things like that. Go ahead and take it a little bit farther.
As far as Logan County?
Yeah.
So before...
And Don lives in Logan County,
yes,
too.
Don lives about 16 minutes from me. But before I started helping with the Second Amendment Association in Logan County, all of us were working to get President Trump reelected for the third time, or elected for the third time. And once we got that finished, I kind of decided that what was next on the list of importance for me was turning over what was going on at our state capitol. Just bothered me that we had a Republican governor, lieutenant governor, House and Senate, and all the problems that we have in the state with whether it was, mandated vaccines or mandated masks or porn in our schools. I mean, it's just a whole plethora of huge issues that should not be. And so the Second Amendment group in Logan County had really dwindled. And so Don had asked me to look around at our leaders and see if I could find someone who would take that over. And I really wanted to find someone who would be excited about it and grow it and use that as a tool for all sorts of things, whether it's city council, school board, mayor, representative, wherever we were needed. And while we were mulling this over, Don called me and asked me if I would serve as interim. And even that, I had to think about it a while, because if I'm going to do something, it's 100%. So I've been learning from Dawn and you anyway since I ran for Senate in 18. I've learned a lot from both of you guys and others in our county, Paul Kozlovsky, and so many people that I look up to. And so it's just been a real honor to work in this capacity and grow Logan County. And we have seen great results within the county, within the city of Guthrie. And I think coming up in the elections, I think Second Amendment Association statewide will really make an impact on what happens.
Now, the
tomorrow.
first meeting you were leading here, about how many turned out for that first
I think we had
meeting?
84.
84.
Yes.
And the previous meeting, there were 2 or 3.
Yes.
And so you made a pretty significant jump right off the bat on that. And of course, that's has a lot to do with Aya's energy and her organizational skills and things like that. And so,
Thank you.
when I was contemplating this podcast, I asked these two to be partners for a reason. And they're both very talented, very skilled in their own rights. Bob and I are both members of the John Birch Society and have been. Bob has probably recruited more people for the Birch Society than anyone in the state of Oklahoma, and has started many chapters and things like that. He's done a tremendous job. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Liza, you live in Senate District 28, don't you?
Correct.
So all 4 of us have an opportunity to vote in the race between Robert Trimble and Grant Green. Grant Green is a very liberal state senator, and as I said in my Charlie's Picks, I don't think he has the moral code to be a senator. I didn't go into it, and I'm not going to go into it right now. But anyway, so all 4 of us have an opportunity to replace him. And
Can I say one thing? What
Sure.
really got me? I mean, there's a lot of things, but really got me is the day that he shut out videoing and photographing in his committee.
Oh, the committee.
Yeah, that really got me. Because
not a fan of transparency.
yeah, because I mean, again, as I said, that's how we got started. We would go, 40, 50 of us to the Capitol. I remember there was one Senate meeting when Senator Yan was running a bill to take away our parental rights, and there was moms and babies on the floor in the committee meeting. That's how packed it was. And we would live stream for the thousands and tens of thousands of Oklahomans who couldn't be there. And to shut that down, and then fast forward, and a lot of these moms are still involved and more involved because of what we did with those live streams.
If I'm not
So
mistaken,
that really, that got me. And I even texted him. I said, is this true? And the crickets told me the answer. Unfortunately.
if I'm not mistaken, even Bob helped you in the earliest
Oh, yeah.
days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of taught you how to.
Yeah, he had some great,
to work with the legislature and things like that.
Yeah, especially those procedural things, that you don't know. Oh, they're doing this and they're filling you here. You have to really be on your toes. That institutional knowledge is so much. And now I do that with other groups because they don't know. What you don't know, you don't know. So,
Yes, passing along. So cool. Charlie, did Senator Green give a reason for shutting down the cameras? Do you know? A recording?
Well, I believe they said that it was distracting.
Is it already being recorded?
It is. It is on the legislature website.
It is, okay.
But, there is something to be said for somebody as an individual giving you a different perspective.
Right, well, they have
You
their
know.
established audience as well, right? Nobody
Right.
knows to go to the
Number one,
to the
yeah,
legislative
correct.
website and the whole bit. So it's more than just the availability of information, it's how it gets targeted. And that's what he was shutting down, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah. So tell us about your survey, and then why don't you, I talk a little bit about OK2A's survey that Don does every year. So go ahead.
Okay.
first.
So our survey covers many issues, including a lot of the environmental issues that are questioned in our state right now, the data centers, the biosolids, just so many of those issues, as well as the parental rights piece, whether that's vaccine choice or the employee mandates and some of the questions that came out of COVID. We even ask about the leadership question. We ask if if you were to be elected, would you vote for either a Senate pro tem or a House Speaker that had less than a C average with our issues? I mean, we think, everybody should have an A, maybe B at worst. So low C, and just it's a plethora of questions just to kind of get a feel for where they are as a limited government candidate. So it's quite a few, and we had, I believe, close to 100 people take it which is the most ever. Mm-hmm. And we weren't
When
even.
you say take it, you mean fill it out and return it?
Fill it out, yes,
Mm-hmm.
And
that's out of a possible.
How many questions on it?
how many questions? I'd have to look at that. It's all on a Google Doc, and so there's kind of some questions that have multiples. So
Okay.
it's lengthy, but not too lengthy. We tried to just cover a lot of different areas as quick as possible.
I think OK2A's a little over 50, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think
Do you
we're
know?
Completed surveys?
Their survey, a little over 50
The
questions
questions.
on
Okay, so if OK2 is 50, why does MOHA have twice that count?
No. We have 100 candidates that took it.
it. 100
Is
that filled it out.
about.
Right, but that's 100 versus
But-
50, right?
No, their OK2A sends out a survey with a little over 50 questions.
Oh, 50 questions.
on it.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Sorry, I
Uh-huh.
missed that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the main thing is to understand is while there's a primary function of OK2A, and that being Second Amendment issues, their organization is about liberty and freedom also. It's bigger than that. And so do you want to comment on this any, Aya?
Yeah, I don't remember how many questions were on it in 18. And I refer back to that because
It's probably grown.
A bazillion. Yes, it has grown in there. And there's 55. I looked it up.
Okay.
I did cheat. But yeah, I love that. I feel like it was before really geared toward Second Amendment issues mostly. But like he's added, or the board, I'm sure, has added health questions, education, asks specific things, I think, about gender, the transgender issues. And so I think they come out with a pretty well-rounded idea of the candidates, but he also takes into consideration their voting record of legislators, because I think they can get like an A, an A+, an A++, and those who vote well during session, they get some brownie points for that, which I think is really great. I know we have a few legislators who have 100% voting record, and that should count
Right.
when it comes up for re-election. So, or if you're just running for the first time, you wouldn't have that. But I know I don't think Oak Pack had a survey. I don't think so. But you vetted us so strongly. When you vetted me, there were things that you had to explain to me so that I could make an educated answer or give an educated answer of things that a lot of people don't think about, like sovereignty of states or state sovereignty. So anyway, yes, these surveys are so very thorough, and I think that's why people trust these organizations when they put out their,
Well, I'm going to ask on the surveys, okay, you both have them, all right. Do you give them to candidates who are running for the first time as well as incumbents, or just candidates who are running for the first time?
So this year, because our survey was new, we did ask that incumbents take it as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Typically, if we'll go by the voting record, but if leadership is not allowing the votes on some of these particular issues to hit the floor, or chairman's not in
Right.
committee, that's what I tell these incumbents. I said, your leadership, if you voted for them, isn't allowing, so I need this survey. And we had pretty good participation. And one more thing I'd like to add that's a little different for our survey is before endorsement, my board requires me to do a interview with every endorsement. So sometimes I've had those interviews go from anywhere to 15 to 2 hours, depending on the candidate. I've really had to shut it down, but it gives me, because I'm a limited pack, I am able to speak with the candidates, per ethics rules. And so that gives me a really good insight to these candidates in a field before we hit that button of endorsement, because there's been times on paper they looked really good, but once we had that call, I just had that.
Well, I like that. So the personal interview is important.
Absolutely.
It really adds a lot of value.
Yeah. And I can clarify some things on the survey that maybe weren't clear, or I felt like this question didn't quite match with this one. And then I can get some of their personal history, and then of course give ours, because ultimately, when you're lobbying up there and getting to know your legislator, your stories matter.
Sure.
This is not just a movement. There's personal stories that created the movement. And so my story is always important, and the stories of my members, as many as I can convey in that short amount of time. But it is real. There's real people behind this.
Do you know OK2A, the answer to that question? Do they give the survey to the existing?
I don't think that they retake it. I think once they've taken it and once they're in, I think he goes by their voting record.
Goes by the voting record. Okay.
But I guess that would.
And the voting record is always on the OK2A issues, though, right?
No,
No.
it's more than that.
No,
It's the whole. It's more than that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what other votes they considered this year, or Don's got in mind?
I do not.
I know one big one was the driver's license for illegals.
Yes, that's all over.
That
this.
that was really a big.
I guess so, right?
Well, and I mean, it's such a big
Isn't
issue.
this man with
Yeah.
a little alien in the car?
I think so. It's on a
And he's
graphic.
holding up a driver's license. It's like an alien.
That meme is great. That meme is great.
Hilarious.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's
I
good.
think when right now Eric Thompson and I are vetting candidates, and some we get before they're elected, some afterwards. I was down in Shawnee yesterday at the Children's White House down there, and the one of the Senate candidates was there, and he has been in the legislature for one 2-year term about 10 or 12 years ago, and so he's now running for the Senate seat to take Shane Jett's position there. And I
Is it
told
Justin
him,
Wood?
Yeah, Justin Wood. I told him after the election is over, he's probably going to have a runoff, but after that's over, I'd like to get with him, Eric and I get with him and go over some issues. And I said, I think because of the 40 years of institutional knowledge that I have, basically, with that, there's a lot of issues that I think will help him be a better legislator than he was previously. And he said, I'd love to do it. And plus, we have a lot of materials that we give to these either lawmakers or prospective lawmakers. I know when we did John Bachman, Eric and I did, John was, I've known John for a long time, but he was not real deep on issues. And so we gave him a bunch of materials. And here about 3 weeks ago on a Thursday, I showed up at Virginia's cafe in Edmond, and John came to that, and we made a film for his campaign. And afterwards, he said, "Man, if you give me that test now, I'd score a lot higher on it." And I said, "Did you look at some of the materials that I gave you?" And he said, "Every one of them." And and that's what we're trying to do is help them build an ideology, a conservative ideology. I have found through the years, I've vetted well over 500 candidates for the state legislature. And I found through the years that maybe 15% of those had a conservative ideology well developed before they came before us. And maybe only half of them got elected.
Right.
Charlie, are you
then-
saying that the public schools are not teaching people the, well-established conservative principles of good government?
Yeah, I guess I'm saying that.
How about the liberal side? Do you think they're teaching that?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
always
think that's right.
It's always a red flag when a candidate says, "I'm going to vote my constituency or what my constituents want."
Yeah.
And I've just seen it time and
Yeah.
time again. If that person gets elected, they go in there and they are all over the place.
Yep.
They have no foundation. So
Well,
what you're doing is great.
This
and
is interesting because our last question, we have a 10-question survey, And the last one is something like this. Every person running said they want to represent the public. So there's two ways of representing them. You either vote according to how the majority in the district wants you to vote, or you tell the people, I understand the principles of good government, and if you send me there, I will represent you by governing according to those good principles. Which do you prefer? Which describes how you will do it, and which political party more nearly represents the one over the other.
You know, Charlie, what you just defined or
Yeah.
laid out in such a basic form is a difference between a democracy and a republic and how they operate.
Well, that makes
Well-
sense
Absolutely.
because in the Bible, when they kept asking for a king and kept asking, finally he's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
when the people keep
Yeah.
asking for something, but it's not what's good for them,
Yeah.
do you bend to what they're asking for, or do you remain constitutional?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's why that's important. If you say I'm going to represent what the majority want, then you ask, how do you know what the majority wants? There's only one way. Now you cast hundreds of votes while you're going to be up there. There's only one way you can actually know what the majority wants, and that's to do a poll. And polls are very expensive. Are you going to pay for those polls?
They're also
know?
jaded.
So, but I mean, no, you could determine
Do a
the poll
fair one.
yourself.
Yeah.
You could say, I want to determine what the people want on this issue. Can you imagine doing this on
every
50
vote.
votes or something? It's it's ridiculous.
No,
you know.
instead they wait to see
Yeah.
who calls in and who makes all the phone calls
Yeah.
into the office.
Yeah.
The special interest groups who have all the money.
I kind of
remember-
want
Go
to pull
ahead.
this back to Miss Liza. So I'm 54. When I was 11, so we know how many years ago that was, like 43 years ago, right? My niece was 4, and she was diagnosed with cancer, and she had her kidney removed, she had a tumor, and chemo and radiation, and she passed before she was 5. So she was dying for about 10 months. And my sister started doing a lot of research and decided that vaccines could have been a cause of this, amongst other ideas, you know, that she read about. And so she immediately, now I was 11, 43 years ago, her children all, you know, she stopped taking them to the doctor. I mean, they did not go to the doctor. The children she had after were birthed at home. And so when you stepped forward, 11 years ago, I guess it was,
Yeah, about.
you know, that I was already watching things that were going on, like Bobby Kennedy has been, I've been a huge fan of his and got to meet him, and that was so exciting because this is something that has been very important to my family for a long time, as well as studies into fluoride and what's on our foods and the same kinds of things you're doing now. But my recollection is that your very first, and you kind of alluded to that, but your very first stance was vaccines. And because you've had experience with that yourself.
Correct.
So I find it interesting of all the paths that has taken you on. But can you tell us a little bit more? I know that the number of vaccines for children has risen exponentially from when I was a kid.
By the time a kid is 3, 4, 5, how many vaccines have they had if the parents agreed to every single vaccine that was recommended?
Well, it's probably about 30 something, maybe close to 40, but the real number, the real kicker is the age of 18. That's like over 70 if you
Okay.
add a flu shot every year and now with the COVID. And so we really look at that, you know, at that number. But yeah, vaccines were, you know, are the one consistent medication per se that, you know, is somewhat required, you know, so that's one thing that is important to look at as an aspect of health, because it's just a factor, you know, of course, our food and our environment, that's also a factor that everybody participates in, but vaccines is a little bit different because you can actually measure. You can have an unvaccinated study versus a vaccinated, which with food, it's much more difficult in the environment. And we've really started getting into the pesticide issue. You know, Iowa has the highest rates of cancer. And they have a particular county that is one of the most highest sprayed areas. And interesting enough, their governor that just won, it was not a Trump endorsement.
That's right.
But he was a full-on Maha regenerative farmer. So this is a big movement, you know, it's because it's at the heart of every family. Everybody knows somebody that is either sick or has, you know, special needs. It's it's rampant, and it's so sad.
The vaccines are a common denominator for
Correct. Right. And what President Trump has done, he just wrote an executive order to take our schedule down to what some of the other first world nations like the Scandinavian nations, Denmark, are doing. So that is going to hopefully help a lot. But I'm telling you that the pharmaceutical industry is so powerful. These medical associations, they have fought it all the way. And, you know, judges have come in and said, nope, you can't do this. And so, you know, President Trump had to do the executive order. And, you know, we are thankful for that, at least, because every time we talk about it, it's awareness coming forth to that new mom sitting there and dad that need to make these decisions.
And a few years ago, we had a lot of holistic doctors that were passing. Where right now we have a lot of scientists that are passing.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
And again, I think we, you know, project back to the pharmaceutical field. I mean, cancer is such a moneymaker, you know, along with every other disease.
Correct.
And so if we figure out how to cure these diseases or how to avoid getting them, then a lot of people aren't quite as wealthy as they used to be.
And cancer is the greatest killer of children.
Liza, on that vein of the federal government, what they're doing, what would you appreciate seeing RFK Jr. lead an effort on next?
Oh, there's so many things. I do think that this issue with the pesticides really needs to be looked at heavily. The same thing that we saw with the vaccines and the CDC being... it's kind of like the fox in the hen house with the CDC and Big Pharma. Well, we have the same thing going on with the EPA, with these big corporations, Bayer, Monsanto, even, and a lot of them, the scary thing is many of them are foreign companies like ChemChina. So the EPA is giving these companies quite a bit of leeway as to they're doing the research, not our EPA. So they're telling the EPA these are safe. And you know, we've had 2 proposals over the last 2 sessions here in Oklahoma to give these companies immunity from lawsuits run by Republicans. And
immunity from lawsuits for vaccines that haven't been tested.
Well, no, I'm talking about the pesticides immunity.
But they're also getting immunity for the vaccines that haven't even been tested.
Yeah, that was done. Yeah. So that's a big issue because, you know, a lot of people are like, what about the vaccines? What about the vaccines? And I said, at this point, at least you can say, no, I do not consent. I do not want to take this vaccine today. With the pesticides, that's a whole other issue. We do not know what's being sprayed. We don't know what's being, you know, what's insidious in the ground and in our food. And so it's invisible. And it's just something that we need to be aware of. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't use them. I'm just saying that immunity is definitely, that should not even be a conversation.
There is an interesting thing on herbicide, which is for plants and weeds as opposed to pests. And because of AI, farmers can, I'm not saying they got this instituted very deeply yet, but they can go along because of AI, and instead of spraying the whole field, it will recognize a weed and only spray the weed. Not only does that save a lot of money for the farmers, you're putting much less pesticides on the ground when you only spray a weed. So if you're going through a wheat field, for example, and these outriggers here that have obviously cameras or something of that nature on them, when they see a weed, they just spray that and that's it, instead of the whole field. So that saves money for the farmers. That puts less pesticide on there, and I think that's a good deal.
Yeah, it is. Although I wonder about the idea of China doing their own tests. Are they using that technology in their fields, or are they
I have no idea.
saying time to weaken America a little bit?
Yeah, I have no idea. So
That's
the more we can uncouple from China, the better we are, in my estimation. And we allowed ourselves to get dependent upon them in many different areas, and it takes some time to uncouple. We're in that process, but it does take some time. So,
Liza, what do you want to bring out and emphasize? What point do you want to deliver to our audience?
Regarding,
Any just wide open question.
well, I think it's really important that everybody realize that tomorrow is such a big day, and it's not just about your vote. It's also about getting the word out. I think people are frustrated right now, and some people don't think that their vote matters. But in these local elections, I mean, what was it? I don't remember what House race it was, but I think like kind of in the Blanchard area, the person won by 2 votes. So it is so important. Don't sit it out. Our organizations try to provide you with a framework of, our institutional knowledge, our research, even information that we know about consultants and some of the things that go on underneath. You can kind of see a pattern, and we try to convey that in our voting guide. But ultimately, the choice is yours, and you don't have a lot of time to do your research, but you can still get all of these voter guides and sit them down and pray about it. But there has to be change, and without the change, we're going to continue going in the same direction. And the direction right now for Oklahoma, it doesn't look good if we keep on this, because people are getting frustrated with the Republican Party because we're not representing the conservative values. So we know what happens when people get frustrated. They want to make a change.
Yeah. We're trying. We're trying to change
the
that.
alternative is not the best. So yes, get out and vote and use these guides. Is the main thing I want to say.
Well, 2 questions. Number 1, where do you get your voter guide for Maha?
Okay, it's just at our website, and that's mohapac.com.
Okay, and the other question is
mohapac.com.
There's a matter of who's going to be the pro tem next time going around. Okay, and what's going on. Do you have any thoughts, or do you have any thoughts on that? What would make a difference between who becomes pro tem?
You weren't playing around today, are you, Bob?
It seems like a fair question.
Time is ticking. That vote is tomorrow.
I know
well,
where OK2A stands. Ron says, drain the 7, drain the swamp, and put him in the hospital.
Lonnie Paxton, I've been around enough to know Lonnie Paxton is not for informed consent and medical freedom. He, even before he was in leadership, many of times we sat in his office trying to explain to him why a bill by former Senator McCourtney, for example, he would run a lot of medical establishment type bills to mandate companies, do this or do that. But then on the other hand, they would say that when it came to employees taking the COVID vaccine, well, we can't tell businesses what to do, but you did over here. So he is F-rated on our issues, and it's nothing personal.
And I can promise you, he's not highly rated by OK2A, since he didn't allow any of their bills to be heard this year in the Senate. I don't think there was a single one.
What was it, 82 bills he wouldn't allow to be heard? That's
Right.
all.
So, well,
Something like that. I keep hearing these numbers.
Of course.
And let me say one thing about Lonnie Paxton that really, again, I have these little triggers that happen to me with these. But one thing, he did not put Dr. Randy Grellner on the Health and Human Services Committee. So there's 2 medical doctors in the Senate now. And only one of them is, quote, allowed to be on the Health and Human Services Committee. The other medical doctor was not allowed. That is unheard of in the legislature. I mean, you're almost always, if you're a nurse or you're a doctor, you're in the medical field, even a pharmacist, you are put on those health committees.
Yes.
So that says right there that people are not being put on the committees that they should be serving on. It's who the establishment who is telling them where to go, and that needs to change.
Let me read what I wrote about Lonnie Paxton.
Okay.
In my Charlie's Picks. This is the setup for the Senate candidates. State Senate candidates. I believe Senate President Pro Tem Lonnie Paxton is not only liberal, but one of the most corrupt members of the Senate. To understand this, watch our podcast as mentioned before when we had State Senator Shane Jett on as our guest. As such, anyone running for Senate and willing to vote for Senator David Bullard to be our next pro tem will get a very close look from me. And so when Shane Jett was here, I asked him a question and he said, "How controversial do you want me to get, Charlie?" I said, "Just pull the curtain back and let us take a look." Yeah. And when he did, I saw just how corrupt Lonnie Paxton was, in my opinion. And any of you watching, you can go back and watch that interview. It was a really important interview that we did with Shane Jett. So, but now, years ago, before OakPack even existed, we were just a debating society. We had a lot of fun, and there were about 20 or 30, we were all men at that time, 20 or 30 that were meeting at the, I forget for sure, we met
the good old days.
We met several different places. And all of a sudden, there were 7 candidates running for a Senate seat, and they kept wanting to come to our meeting and talk a little bit. And so we said, okay. One of them was Glenn Coffey. Mm-hmm. And I asked Glenn, why did you want to do that? Now, Glenn Coffey was the first Republican president pro tem we ever had. Mm-hmm. And that was about his last 2 years or something of that nature. He said, well, all 7 of us lived in where most of you guys were, and so that's the reason we want to do that. And one of them came and he said, I don't know whether we're the Magnificent Seven or the Seven Dwarfs. So we're going to talk about 7 senators that Don Spencer believes should be replaced. And we're just going to call them the 7 Dwarfs, okay? And so those particular senators are Ali Siegfried, and by the way, both OK2A and Mohawk endorsed Ali 4 years ago. I urged you not to do it. I thought that, I can't remember his name right now.
Jaron Jackson.
Jaron Jackson was the more conservative one. And anyway, you all went ahead and did it, and her score is terrible. And she needs to be replaced.
That's a kind way to say "I told you so."
Yeah.
Did he just take Liza out to the woodshed?
He took. And let me tell you, sometimes these candidates don't help themselves when they do not take a survey or they do not ask for help,
or didn't get it in soon enough, or something like that.
Yeah. So help us help you. You know, sometimes you it puts us in a situation, but I'm gonna it's definitely noted.
And there's one that I've disagreed with you on this time. Mm-hmm. Both of them.
He's going to do it again.
Yeah. Well, the election hasn't happened yet. But you have both endorsed Colin Dewell for the state house.
Gotcha.
And I think you're wrong on those. I believe that Carmen Greider is the better. Colin's not the worst in the world by any means. Mm-hmm. And I could certainly see why Don would endorse him, because not only has he voted right on OK2A issues, he's carried bills, and he's carried bills in the face of some real heat from probably the worst state rep, Kennedy. He took a lot of heat from Kennedy for carrying a bill. Mm-hmm. So I can understand that. But all I can tell you is this is all 3 of us live in this district, the 3 of us. And I know Carmen very, very well. 4 years ago, we interviewed Carmen, Colin, and I forget the black gentleman's name that was running. And I can tell
Logan?
Trainer.
Logan Trainer. And I can tell you that I had 3 independent people come to make the choice on that, because the 3 people I was training were already involved in other races. And so we spent an hour and a half with each of them, 30 minutes in between. Took a whole, several hours to do all this. And as soon as we finished with the last one and they left, I gave ballots to these 3 people. And I said, I don't want you all to talk. You just vote for the one that you saw was the best. And it was unanimous, Carmen Greider. And I believe that Carmen Greider, if elected, will be in that realm of the 90 to 100. She'll be very similar to Molly Jenkins and very similar to Jim Shaw.
Did you
And so-
endorse her 2 years ago too, or?
Well, she didn't run 2 years ago.
Okay.
It was 4 years
4
ago.
years ago, yes.
And we
Yes.
did endorse her.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'm just saying.
No, yeah,
you know.
there's, yeah.
And it's not that Colin's that bad. She'll just be better. Is my
Gotcha.
whole deal
Yeah.
on that.
Liza, we've just mentioned the issues on the Senate side. Do you have, what are your thoughts on the House side in terms of good, bad, what can make a difference?
Yeah, there's a couple of races that I want to point out. Let me pull it up here. House District 40, that's the Enid area. So we have endorsed Kinsley Jordan and Major Kinsley Jordan, and this is one of those races where it's a pretty extreme between the candidates. His opponent was on the school board, and she voted to they were trying to end the mask mandate, and she voted against ending the mask mandate. And this was in 2021. This is at the end of the pandemic, and she still voted to mask children. And so we pointed that out a couple of weeks ago. And that made huge news in Enid. A lot of people were not even aware of that because the measure passed to unmask the children, but so the no votes didn't get
Due attention.
yeah, but now it's getting attention. And so we just really want to point that out, that Kinsley Jordan, and not only that, but Kinsley Jordan left the military because of the COVID vaccine. He stood up for his principles, and so there's going to be a very extreme difference in those two. And of course, Kinsley Jordan is who we're endorsing.
I endorsed Kinsley also.
Yes.
Well, it's good to hear, Charlie.
Yeah.
And somebody else?
And another one.
race?
Let's see. I think the other race is in the Senate, and that's between Brady Butler and his opponents there. Especially the Jessica, what is her name here? Jessica Weingart. Yeah. She reminds me so much of Jessica Garvin, and we had to unseat her
Oh,
4
boy.
years ago, so let's not do that again.
So you're favoring
But-
Brady Butler is what you're saying?
Yes, Brady Butler is who we've endorsed in that, but that's such a contrast. A lot of these candidates, she also was a school board member, and and of course we have nothing against people that step up for that, but there's a different thought process, as you say, an ideology sometimes with
So Jessica
with those
Garvin-
To
members.
change that.
Yes, well, they're running for office.
But I mean, we hope to change the school boards to
Yes.
where
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
better people.
Absolutely.
And that's-
Yeah.
So Jessica Garvin was absolutely horrible, terrible. And I vetted her, and we wouldn't endorse her at all. And so you replaced her with Kendall.
Kendall.
Sacchi.
Yeah, Sacchieri. I always want to call her Scaramucci. But anyway, Sacchieri. And you talk about night and day
Night and day,
difference.
that's what I'm saying,
Night and day,
yes.
I'm telling you.
I really
And
Kendall
Jessica
is
was
a
one of these that
fantastic-
told me she would vote her district. So there's an example, a real life example of what you get when someone doesn't have the principles and the foundation of representing the district per the Constitution or
I
limited
really
government.
love that Kendall, usually on Fridays during session, just like sits in her car and gives us a video
recap.
update. I
Yeah,
love that.
that's
I was
great.
going to ask you, Bob, while she's, a
Guys,
chance
what?
more, but, well, I might have misunderstood you.
Oh, okay.
But I thought that you said you would only vote for people who signed the no lobbyist pledge.
Yes, for the sake of emphasizing the value of the no lobbyist pledge and to get that message out, I've decided this time that I'm going to stand on that. That I realize that is It's a litmus test, but for the benefit of getting that message out, I've decided to do that.
So if you have a very
Uh-oh.
conservative candidate
Like Brady Butler.
versus a very liberal candidate that are both you can vote on tomorrow, you just won't vote on either of them if they have not taken no lobbyist pledge.
Well, no, in that case, I'm recommending people obviously choose, one or the other. Don't
Okay.
not vote at all. But the whole idea is
Of endorsing or
for those races
supporting.
where there is a no lobbyist pledge candidate, please vote for that person.
Okay, but you are going to vote for a most conservative candidate. You're not just going to leave it blank because they didn't take a no lobbyist.
Right.
All right, that was a question I had. I mean,
Yeah, but again, so everybody understands that is so key when you start talking about how do we change the capital, how do we influence the operations of it all, so we can have this generational change in a good government. The whole idea of squeezing out the impact of all this big money from all these big companies, we've got to confront that. And I do believe that this whole approach, so well developed by Jason Murphy, is central to a solution. And I'm interested in seeing the results of this election to see how many of them actually gain footing, because it'll give credibility to the whole effort. So Wednesday in our podcast, when we actually present this, going to be discussing it. And I'm hoping that over the next 2 years, we can sell that message even more, where people are not bought out by lobbyists. They refuse the money because they know the negative impact, and they can win elections without taking those funds. So folks, please support this election going on. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
So, and the key is, let's just take the race where we're in the place that we're right now, the Senate race, is between Chuck Hall and Pastor Mark Lamar. Well, Chuck Hall has about $300,000 that he's raised just in his own campaign funds. That doesn't talk about the dark money. And Mark Lamar's around 45,000, something to that nature. Now, I believe that Mark will win this race and may win it fairly handily. And this is really significant because Chuck Hall is the second most powerful senator there is, being the budget director. Right. And I bring all this up to say that if you have a good candidate, and Mark will not take any lobbyist money, if you have a good candidate that's willing to work hard, you can beat big money.
Yes.
And so, but going forward, I know in talking to Robert Trimble about this, Robert has spent an awful lot of his money, his own money, in this race, and I don't believe his campaign manager has wanted that message of no lobbyist money out there. It certainly hasn't done a very good job of putting it out there. But
he hasn't. That's right.
And I personally think that's because he wants to run a campaign for him in 4 years and wants to make sure there's enough money to pay his exorbitant salary.
So he doesn't want to cure cancer. He just wants to make money off of it, right?
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. That's what I believe his So
now
you have to understand something. Whores aren't just women. There are men that are whores too.
are you on some of that medicine that someone else is taking?
I'll tell you what, just a follow-up thought on that. Yeah.
And I have a follow-up as well.
I have a feeling, I'd love to measure this for these two groups.
Yeah.
That is those no lobbyist money candidates who actually win and get in office.
Yeah.
Track their voting record.
Yeah.
Okay, just that group.
Yeah.
Track their voting record and see if they don't align with the principles of both organizations. I'm going to bet they do, because that is the way most people think, and unless they're bought out by lobbyists.
Let me explain why I say that. Most consultants really don't care that much about issues. They care about winning. And so that's why I call most of them whores.
Oh, I understand.
To be honest with you. And so they will do almost anything, say almost anything to get a victory.
Sure.
Because the more victories they get, then it shows them as being really good at what they do, and that brings more candidates to them in the future.
Right.
And so anyway, that's the reason I
Yeah,
said
it's
that.
the running
Let me,
kind of
let me
career.
point out something that happened last cycle that's a little bit different from the no lobbyists, but it's a pattern that I noticed as far as marketing. It was very well illustrated last cycle, the money's coming in from these candidates and the lobbyist money. Whether you want to go to the extreme of saying no lobbyist, because I see this as a spectrum, and I see it as a spectrum of education to the public.
Sure.
So let's just say your thought, no lobbyist money. And what we did last cycle, because you mentioned we were very successful, what we did last cycle was really point out the difference. Oh, sorry.
That's right.
Yeah. Point out the difference between the monies coming in from these candidates. And like you said, the public doesn't like that. The public just has, whether it's true or not, whether it buys your vote, that's not the case. The public just has a disdain to that. So simply even just educating the difference between candidates is quite powerful, because even if the candidate takes lobbyists, but they're taking lobbyist money from, say, like a PAC like ours, or from Oak PAC or whatever, it's still good. Yeah, it's still going to be it's going to be quite the difference. It's going to be, you're looking at tens of thousands or 15,000, 20 at max, maybe, especially if they're a good fundraiser, versus, like you said, hundreds of thousands. There's still a contrast there between, you can still have a good contrast. So that's just something that I said, and we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Well, I know what you're saying, Liza, but
I
I'll
think
tell
the
you,
importance is-
you take Mark Lamar's sign, and right on the bottom, very bold,
No,
no lobbyist
yeah.
money, right? And the marketing impact of that, is so huge.
Yeah.
That's why I emphasize that point.
Well,
I
you
realize they're a
say
good
it's
group.
huge. We'll find out tomorrow.
We'll find out.
So
We'll find out,
I
yes.
just want to step in and say I am a member of this podcast. I'm also a leader within the Second Amendment Association group, but I do not endorse always the same people they do.
Certainly.
I am a person that has worked in the GOP in this county for a very long time, even when none of these people showed up for a while. And so I've had some different experiences with, a candidate that's being discussed. So when I see someone who really fights the conservative group and what we're trying to do, it gives me pause. So since people do ask me afterwards if ABCs has endorsed certain candidates, Charlie has Charlie's picks. We have Moha. We have 2A. We have
we haven't
Bob.
we haven't made an endorsement as a podcast.
Right. It's
No.
just
Well,
Charlie's
we agreed to be
picks.
different. We're
Yeah.
allowing our
Yeah.
differences.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I just want to make that very clear.
Yeah. I've
Liza-
always wanted us to be able to air our differences
Yeah,
and things,
it's good.
And that's important. Iron sharpens iron. People hear these differences.
Well, and back to what you had said about a senator that you didn't, think would be a good one before, and that came. Some people like Charlie who've been doing this, for 172 years.
Oh, gosh.
They,
I've been at it much longer than that. What are you talking about?
I'm still holding Charlie accountable for his support for Abraham Lincoln.
but I do learn so much from all of them. So.
Liza, we're getting down to the end of our hour. Do you have closing comments or thoughts you'd like to share?
Tell how people can join your group here.
Yes.
Just
That's,
go to mohapac.com. We make it real simple.
You
And-
have a communication capability with all of your members.
Right. We have a website, and then we send out text messages, newsletters, and of course, one of the things that's a little bit different about our organization compared to many others is we're huge on social media, because we're a lot of young families and busy moms and dads, and so meetings weekly or monthly are not as easy. So social media, you can find us on all the platforms at mohapac.com.
I think we used to get to claim you for Logan County, didn't we?
Yes,
And you-
I've moved since.
Yeah.
Yes,
We lost one of them.
So did you live in Logan County at one time?
No, I've never lived in Logan County, but I think she's speaking of that my house district kind of
Okay.
Yeah, the house.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he had Logan and Oklahoma County, so always been in Oklahoma County.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Don't hold that against Liza.
well, I don't. I just keep telling people that Logan County is the most conservative county in the state of Oklahoma. And on a per capita basis, we have more conservative leaders in this county than any county in the state. And if we're successful in replacing our 2 incumbent state senators, I think that the 2 that will replace them will not score below an 80 on the Oklahoma Constitution's conservative index. And then we have 5 state representatives. We have 3 right now with Molly and Jim Shaw and Denise Crosswhite Hayter. I think Denise's is a lifetime average of 91. So we have 3 90 and above. And with us seeing John Pfeiffer termed out, he's our most liberal, and very happy that he's no longer a state representative here. If we can get Michael Norman elected, Michael Norman will be in that 90 to 100 group. And then the other one is Colin Deuel. And while his lifetime is a 70, if we can change that out, then we're going to have, right now, Colin's our most liberal one in this county. And if we get that changed out, you'll never see I don't believe you'll ever see Carmen below a 90. So we will have the most conservative of 2 senators and 5 state reps. Will be the most, by far, single-purpose conservative county in the state.
Charlie, closing comments for our podcast, or was that it?
So I think that's it. We can't wait till Wednesday, and we'll be here Wednesday to kind of go over the results of the elections and things like that, and that should be a very, very interesting time. So,
And I don't drink alcohol, but
yeah.
anyone on that show might want to bring some. I don't know.
Bob,
That could be good or bad, right?
Bob, how quickly can you have this out?
Oh, I'm committed on Wednesday. We're going to record at 10 a.m.
No, today's.
Oh,
How
today's.
quickly can you have it to the public?
I'm going to go home and present it and prepare it now.
By noon or 1 or 2?
Something to that effect.
So let's talk about tonight then. Go ahead and tell us what's happening tonight.
Yes,
Birthday
I'm
party,
super
right?
pumped about our 250th birthday party for America. And as a naturalized citizen, I just love this country. And so the chance to celebrate it is really exciting. But it comes on the eve of the election. And so we are having 25 candidates show up and 4 gubernatorial. So bring your questions, your hard questions. I think ABCs will be there to interview people. We
Yes.
have Ennis Freedom coming. You might get to play basketball with him. Bounce houses for little people and big people. It's all sponsored, so you won't have to spend money. And
Fireworks?
line dancing, fireworks display. I mean, the whole 9 yards.
Watermelon eating
watermelon
contest.
contest.
Where's it at?
It's at 624 West Warner, Cottonwood Flats, which is also
Event
owned
center.
by Pastor Wayne that lets us use this facility. So it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, it starts at 6.
Yes.
If you want to eat,
Yes.
you have to RSVP, right?
Yes, you'll definitely need an armband and a ticket. So go to check-in when you get there. Get your face painted, I guess, even if you're a big person. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
live band.
So
line
that's the
dancing,
night we kick off. There's going to be birthday cake. too.
Birthday cake.
Yeah, for the 250th birthday of the United States of America. It's going to be a.
think
we're
we're
expecting
We're expecting
250
about
or more.
320 right now.
All right, 320 people right now.
Missed one important question. Has Maha endorsed a candidate for governor?
We have not. We have not. It's too split between our membership and our board. We'll see what happens in the runoff. But we have on our guide. You'll see that there's I think 4 or 5 of them that took the survey, and all made an A. So I mean we can't report anybody that made an F. But probably they're not going to take our survey if they're going to make an F.
Well,
so.
that's encouraging that so many have taken it and have
Yes.
gotten an A.
Yeah.
All
So
right, that's-
the option is to the voter to do their research and decide, and then we'll.
So
we'll
I'm going to make a prediction on the governor.
I knew that was coming. I knew it.
You know what? I
The
think
two-
we should all get
the
an
two-
envelope and make our predictions,
Well, I'm
and then
gonna
see.
make
I'm
it
going to disagree
public
with this
here.
prediction.
Okay.
The two that will be in the runoff will be Maisie and either Drummond or Maisie and McCall. And I think
Charlie,
it's
you're
more
so
likely to be
disconnected from the
Drummond.
public. You don't understand.
I think it's
what's
more
going
likely
on
to be
there.
Drummond.
No, you got to understand. It's
The one that will finish fifth is Jake Merrick.
I think we should do an envelope and see
He's going
who's
to be
right.
way up there. Jake is going to be on. You see,
Fifth out of 9.
he's making such an impression out there.
Yeah.
And Liza just said it. It's all about social media.
Yeah.
That's where he's going to score.
Well,
Well,
big.
if it's about
Well,
social media,
I don't-
JJ's going to win.
Well, I don't think I said that. I don't think I said it's all about social media. I said
That's what I heard. Isn't that what you heard, folks? It's all about social media.
Well, I know.
Jake for the tape.
They're big on social media.
Have you seen JJ's videos? If it's all about social media, JJ wins everything.
right.
I was watching a video with him and, of course, Bigfoot.
Bigfoot
James.
says,
No.
Bob.
We have to remember the voting
yeah.
population doesn't do social media. The largest portion still. So, yep, got to look at those numbers. Don't lie.
You know, I've never watched one of our podcasts.
Yeah.
Charlie.
I've listened to one.
So.
Folks, thank you all for joining us and look forward to this rather special edition come Wednesday morning. We'll publish that one as soon as we can after we record at 10 a.m. Thank you very much for joining us.